So, you want to go ahead? We'll call a vote on the amendments. Okay.
I think it's probably unanimous here.
Okay. Is it unanimous?
Chair, a recorded vote.
Ms. O'Connell,
Yes.
Mr. Shifke,
Oui.
Mr. Biddle,
In favor.
Mr. Geir,
In favor?
Mr. McKinnon,
In favor?
Mr. Lloyd,
In favor.
Mr. Kurek,
In favor.
Mr. Matz,
In favor.
Mr. Caputo,
Yes.
Madame Michaud,
Contre.
Mr. Julian,
En faveur.
Adopted. One nays.
1 nay and 10 yeas. The motion is passed, or the amendment is passed. Before we go for any further, Ms. Michaud, you had your hand up. Was that just up previous, or I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything on the screen? You're good? Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. O'Connell.
on that same point, can you please update us the speaking order on the main motion?
Yes, it's Mr. Julian, Ms. Michaud, Mr. Motz, Ms. O'Connell, Mr. Biddle.
Thank you.
Good. Back to Ms. Ferrari, please.
Thank you, Chair. And
Mr. Sorry,
Je
Chair.
vais toujours parler, mais je parlerai quand ça se tantôt. Il semble avoir un petit délai pour nous.
There seems to be a delay for those of us in video conference, so I wanted to be sure that I'd kept my speaking time because I would still like to speak.
She's on the speaking list.
Yes, you're on the speaking list after Mr. Julian, who is after Ms. Ferrari.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. O'Connell, please.
sorry, if we're going to be a stickler for speaking order, I believe Mr. Biddle was on the list. If Ms. Ferrari was on the list for the amendment, which is now carried, now we go back to the general speaking list, which I believe was Mr. Biddle.
Why don't we just have the one speaking list on this?
Right.
So I'm just
But
going
I
to,
think there was confusion in terms of the amendment. So if Ms. Ferrari was speaking on the amendment, then you would move to the first speaker of the main motion because we just dealt with the amendment.
okay, maybe that was my fault, Ms. O'Connell, but we're going to just finish with Ms. Ferrari, and then we're going to go move to Mr. Julian, please.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted
Ferrari,
clarification.
sorry.
thanks. I've been called much worse in my life, Chair. It's okay. Thank you to this, and hopefully we can get through to the meat and potatoes here of this, because I think what we're really here and elected to do here is be the voice of the people that don't have one, and in particular in this case the victims. So to the point it came earlier, it's an operational decision. Well, who does the Commissioner of Corrections Canada report to? The Minister of Public Safety. The Commissioner of CSC is recommended for appointment by the Prime Minister and approved by an order in Council. This appointed position reports directly to the Minister of Public Safety, Democratic Institutions and Intergovernmental Affairs, and is accountable to the public via the Parliament. So that's important to have on the record of what that is. So I just want to read into the record that this letter that has garnered a lot of attention, and so it should. This is dated March 4th, 2024, and it is directed to Ms. Kelly, who is the Commissioner that reports to Corrections Canada and reports to the Minister of Public Safety. Ms. Kelly, I am sure by now you are aware that the living conditions of serial rapist, psychopath, murderer, and dangerous offender Paul Bernardo have been revealed. Contrary to your address, these conditions are quite the opposite to what you led us all to believe. You claimed there was a lateral move. Other than the fact that there are cells and prison guards, the difference between a maximum security penitentiary and a medium security facility such as La Macasa couldn't be more different. Please help me understand how someone such as Paul Bernardo can be housed in a facility such as this. One of Canada's most notorious killers, a psychopathic serial rapist, a designated dangerous offender. Does any of this mean anything? I can only imagine the prisoners remaining in maximum security penitentiaries must be asking the same question. If someone who commits the worst of the worst crimes doesn't qualify for the harshest conditions, then who does? This monster is allowed to play pickup hockey, tennis, billiards, work out in a 5-star gym facility, and partake in a workshop with tools, signing out tools like the ones he used to torture, sodomize, and ultimately kill his victims. Does this seem fair, logical, ethical, right? And your prison staff feel safe? They certainly shouldn't. My best friend, Kristen French, doesn't get to skate anymore. She was a very skilled and talented figure skater. She could have taken her love and passion for the sport to the top, but that dream was stolen from her, as was her life. A beautiful life that was filled with so much promise, all taken away by that psychopath monster who is now living the good life. I understand that Paul Bernardo has rights. I'm not disputing that. But these should be basic rights. He took away lives in the worst way possible. There has to be lifelong consequences for this, not rewards. Ms. Kelly, I have to assume that any human being with common sense can see that this move is nothing short of insanity. It's okay to make mistakes or revoke bad decisions. This was a very bad decision. I know you and your team claim all the criteria was met and that policies and procedures were followed. You can now see that by moving Bernardo was a major mistake, and a major mistake was made. You can right this wrong. By leaving Bernardo in medium security, you are telling everyone that what this monster did wasn't that bad. You are telling other criminals to just do their time quietly, and you will be rewarded despite the severity of the crime you commit. Is this the message you are wanting to give? I certainly hope not. There are more details coming out soon with regards to living conditions at La Macasa. It's time to do the right thing for the victims, their families, and all Canadian alike. Do the right thing, Ms. Kelly. Move Paul Bernardo back to maximum security where he belongs. And so I would encourage this committee, and in particular somebody who sits on this committee who is from the region in which these women were raped and murdered, to further study this so that we can, and with 6 meetings, I might add, with all of these witnesses, make sure that this never happens again. And to my point, to my colleague to my left, Mr. Paul Hoos, the Victim Bill of Rights be upheld, because we haven't seen that under this Liberal government. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Julian, please.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Chair. My thoughts are, of course, with the victims today as well.
Support the discussion that we're having. I appreciated that we've added additional witnesses. I think that is very important. Certainly thinking of with victims today and the fact that we started this study last fall. And my concern is that we have yet to report if the objective of our committee is to put in place recommendations that we oblige the government to follow to ensure that the concerns that have been raised about victims and victims' families and the notification process around transfer, how transfers are effectuated, and also broad concerns that have been raised in the testimony that we've heard so far in this study about correctional officers being consulted, the ones who know best the offenders that are in the institutions. And we've heard from correctional officers that they haven't been consulted. And so I think for all those reasons, it is important to continue this study. I would like the motion to reflect that we are continuing a study that we began actually last November. And that what we're really doing is adding an additional 6 meetings for a total of no less than 11 meetings on this issue. And the fact is, as my Conservative colleagues have indicated, they see no distinction between the study that we started last fall and the proposal to extend that study or continue that study that we're hearing today. Now, I do believe that we have as a committee made the decision to move ahead on clause by clause on C26. Cybersecurity is an issue that we have seen is of fundamental importance. I believe that we can potentially wrap up the clause by clause study of this bill, which has been stuck out in no man's land now for 2 years. The reality is we need to complete our work on that. And I'm assuming that that's the intent as well, that we could potentially start the study this week. We would sit on clause by clause for cybersecurity, complete our work on that bill that has been delayed for far too long and is far too critical for Canada's infrastructure, and then come back to this study. I have no objections to that. Believe that the additional names that Ms. O'Connell offered have been valuable. I have a further concern that's not reflected in the motion, and I believe we need to clarify the motion around the fact that we're continuing the study. But my further concerns are the number of escapes that we saw in previous years, and I'm talking about the previous government, the Harper government. The number of escapes from federal institutions was at its highest level. In fact, the 3 worst years for prison escapes in recent memory have been under the Harper government. And at the same time, we saw proposals to slash funding for correctional services by $290 million. That was proposed by the Conservatives in December. That's total of $290 million out of the overall correctional services budget. I think that is a matter of some concern too. If we see a higher level of escapes, if we're talking about public safety, it's important to keep in context that slashing the budget, as was proposed and voted on in December, is not something that helps to reassure Canadians or to ensure public safety. So that's an element as well that I think needs to be considered as part of continuing our study. But overall, Mr. Chair, with those adjustment changes, I think the most important element is that we proceed to hear from witnesses, take the break around cybersecurity so that we can complete that work that has been delayed for far too long. Come back and complete this study. And most importantly, Mr. Chair, I would hope that we would actually issue the report in the House of Commons that ensures that victims are taken into consideration before transfers are put into place, that ensures that correctional officers are consulted in a meaningful way before these transfers take place. Can't defend at all the horrible, horrific, sadistic acts of Paul Bernardo and Luca Magnotta. The important thing is that public confidence see the correctional services and our prison system as working on their behalf. And I think it is crucial that we actually get to a report and get to those recommendations and table them in the House and have the debate in the House of Commons and ensure that government then the government is being pressured to put into place the recommendations that we are making. So in general, I support the motion. I think there is some tweaking required to ensure that people are aware that this is a continuation of a study that we started last November. But above all, I believe we need to complete this study, make the recommendations, and ensure that they are respected and put into place so that the concerns that have been raised over the last few months are finally met with the response of the Public Safety Committee. Merci, thank you.
Point of order.
Yes, just one moment, Mr. Keurig, please. Mr. Julian, are you making an amendment, or we received something here via email? I just want to clarify, because you did talk about making to the continuing study that we're presently doing. I just want to follow up and make sure we're not missing something before we move on.
No, what you received you can put aside, because we've had some adjustments, I think, when I wrote that up in response to the first, as the motion was tabled. But this is an evolving